Let's talk about uni.
Are you wondering if university is right for you?
Is it worth it? Maybe you think you're not good enough or worried about fitting in.
Maybe you're concerned about money or overwhelmed by the application process.
What's holding you back?
Let's talk about uni.
This podcast is dedicated to sharing real student experiences.
We'll be joined by students at Welsh universities who will be sharing their personal stories.
We'll be digging into all the thoughts and feelings that might be holding you back and set you up for making the right choices.
In this episode, we look at the academic aspects of university. Some would say the point of it all. We discuss the move from school to higher education, coursework, exams, the worry of feeling good enough, and more.
The notes app on my phone became my best friend, really.
It wasn't until I really started having support, I was like, they were saying, you do know that there's a much easier process.
The start of university is always like, oh, I've never wrote an essay before. The university will give you help.
I love that academic work is portable. You know, I just carry around my laptop and study wherever I was.
I'm Emily and I'm just finishing my master's degree in Cardiff University School of Law and Politics. I'm joined today by students Lewis Reynolds and Ashley Hennessy from the University of South Wales, Gareth Jones, who is studying with the Open University, and Ewan Richards, who is a master's student and staff member providing academic support at University of Wales Trinity St David. So firstly, I'm Emily. I'm from Cardiff originally, from Grangetown, and I'm coming to the end of my master's degree in international relations, and I'm studying in the School of Politics in Cardiff Uni. And I've found my postmaster's job. I'm going to be working for the Coleg Cymraeg Cenedlaethol as their Equality, Diversity and Anti-Racism Coordinator.
My name is Lewis Reynolds. I'm from Pembrokeshire. So I'm in the University of South Wales. I'm studying professional policing out of the Treforest campus. I've always found I've enjoyed helping people. So yeah, I've always wanted to be a police officer.
How about you, Ashley?
I'm from Camberley originally, near London. I'm currently at the Newport campus, just come to the end of my counselling degree. I love counselling, I love caring for people, but I have a disability, so I became too sick to be a carer. So I switched to counselling because I thought then I can still care for people, but sat down. But it's going really well. I love it. It's the best thing I ever did, I think.
Ewan, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
So I'm Ewan and I come from Llanelli. I've just finished a master's in software engineering at the University of Wales Trinity St David, and I now actually work there as a support assistant for our students who have disabilities, hidden or visible. The university's always been really supportive. They've really helped me a lot, both as a student and as someone who now works there. And even after a year, it still feels weird, so I'm thinking that I'm working there now.
I'm Gareth. I grew up in Cardiff and now live in Barry, South Wales. So I actually graduated last summer with a law degree from the Open University, and I'm about to start on a master's in crime and justice.
I was going to ask for us all to sort of cast our minds back to that period before we arrived at university, because we're talking about the academic sort of challenges. And I just wanted to ask, were we all worried about the academic side of things? Did we worry that it might be too much, or that perhaps we just weren't good enough? Lewis?
Yeah, so I finished my A-levels in, I think it was late June, and I was going to be a lifeguard, and that was me. I was going to be a lifeguard then, and hopefully apply for the police to do their apprenticeship scheme. Didn't look at university until about a month before the university term started. So I was a bit worried whether the step from A-levels to higher education would be a massive step up. But from what I've worked at, because you get to set your own pace in university sort of thing. If you've got an assessment set for a week time or 2 weeks time, you can either get it done earlier on in the week, or as I often do, leave it till the end of the week and sort of stress out a bit then. But yeah, so you sort of got a bit of, instead of, your exams at the end of the year, that's all you've got then for your A-levels. You can sort of manage your time more efficiently then.
Are you glad you took the plunge?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm really enjoying my course, and having somewhat of a step away from my family as well. It sort of shows like how much you can mature on your own.
Ashley, what about you? That sort of feeling, am I good enough to go to university? That sort of, I feel like when we're all in secondary school or when we're just not in university, it seems quite far away or quite distant.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to what Lewis was just saying. Like, I was worried about that jump from A levels to doing a degree, particularly because I actually went to uni before and ended up dropping out because I had health issues. I also failed my A levels and then went back and did an access course. I thought that I was just not academic, but it turns out I was just rubbish at exams. I'm really good at coursework and I'm due to graduate with a first now. And the uni's been really supportive in helping me make that jump from level 3 to level 4, 5, and 6. And I just feel that this uni is so great at like meeting people where they're at. Like there's people in my class who are mature learners and have kids and work and other commitments, and they've still been able to do well on their assignments and be supported with that. I always thought growing up that uni was just a place for really, really smart people. And actually, it's really nice. You don't have to be perfect to do well here.
I wanted to just quickly pick your brains about the access course. I just wanted to ask how you found that.
Sure. I found it so much easier than A levels. I think because I'm a bit neurodivergent, I really struggle with putting my brain in different boxes. I think so, like doing the completely different like A levels. I just really struggled being able to switch my brain over from subject to subject. But with the access course, we were sort of just doing 1 or 2 modules at once. And it was like all with 1 or 2 teachers. And I just found it a lot easier and it was more coursework based. And I'm just a lot better at coursework because, yeah, as Lewis said, you can choose when you do it. Some days I feel great and some days I feel terrible. So exams really aren't my thing because I can't guarantee that I'm going to be feeling very well that day.
Ewan, what do you think? Because you can sort of see it perhaps from both sides as a student, but now also you're helping other students.
Yeah, very, very much so. I support a number of students with various disabilities. And yeah, that's something I get asked quite often. Like in like the first couple of weeks, like, am I really good enough for this? Like, what can I expect? And I sort of having that past student experience and sort of go, yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, it's going to be probably a bit of a bumpy ride. I think we probably all had a bit of a bumpy ride at some point in uni. Like, it's not quite as bad as you may have heard. I think for me personally, I got used to sort of that set structure. But I think with the university, because you have so much more, I don't want to say free time, but sort of spare time outside of the lectures, you think, right, what am I going to do in this? Especially if you have a gap in between 2 lectures, you think, right, what am I going to do in this 2 hours? I could either go and have some lunch somewhere, very tempting.
So, Gareth, I wanted to ask you, did you agree with Ewan? He said, it's not as bad as you think. I just thought, oh, that's an interesting way of phrasing it.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I think I probably come from it from a different perspective to everyone else here today, in that I had over a decade gap between completing my GCSEs and starting higher education. And I didn't have that A levels in the middle. I actually left education at 16 and went straight into employment for that. So I didn't have that transition where you start to gain some of the more nuanced academic skills that you put into place at higher education. And that was my biggest fear, I think, in that I didn't worry about not understanding the subject matter, but it was more the skills that you need at higher education, your essay writing, your referencing skills, and so on.
So, when you first got to university, what were your first impressions when it came to studying? What were the structure of your courses? Lectures, tutorials, coursework, and are they all, all courses are different. Did you struggle with the transition and the different way of studying between school and uni and the expectations? Lewis, if I could come to you again.
So after leaving, obviously, secondary school, you had your timetable of lessons. You might have, A levels, you might have 3 lessons in a day and then 2 free periods. It's sort of the same as your lectures and stuff. You might have 2 lectures in the morning and then an hour break, and then 3 lectures in the afternoon. Or you might have a day with no lectures, or like a half day or something like that. So again, you can manage your time more efficiently than you probably could in secondary school, because it gives you a bit more freedom. Say if you did, have a Thursday off, like I did this year, you could either choose to work all day, or if you're just, feeling a bit down or something, you could just go for a walk, or go to the gym, or go for a run, or just chill for the day and sort of stuff like that.
So, Ashley, I've already mentioned the access course. So, that difference between school studying and university studying, how did you find that leap, that jump?
I feel like the jump from access course to uni wasn't as big as the jump from GCSE to A level. I did struggle a bit with time management in my first year just because the way my courses run, it's all coursework, and we're just in for 2 full days. It was like 9 till 4:30 or something like that. And then we were just off for independent study the rest of the week. So I quite liked that. But if there was like a module or an assignment that I wasn't that interested in, I did find it quite hard to make sure I do that. I think just really scheduling in at the start of the week what I'm going to do that week, what my priority tasks for that week are, that sort of thing really helped.
Ewan, would you agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. Something that I try and do with my students as a sort of more staff perspective. The first few weeks are usually quieter than, let's say, the end of the term. So things like concentration strategies, time management, trying to sort of block off time to do assignments, exam revision, whatever comes up. We try to identify those at quite an early stage. So then, yes, we're still supporting the student throughout those 2-3 months, however long they have the assignment for. They have an idea of kind of how to do it, even though we're still sort of supporting them.
And Gareth, I wanted to ask, because you had a gap between school and university, how did you find that leap? Or did it feel like a leap, or did it feel like something different?
It definitely felt like something different. I think I look back at my high school days, and in comparison, I feel how like structured and to an extent spoon-fed it is. Do this at this time. This is your homework due in by this day. Next week by that deadline. Whereas going into university, there was, as everyone has mentioned, there was a lot more independence and a self-reliance to get the work done than I remember previously. But on the flip side to that, there was a lot more independence and flexibility in what we can do as well. So being a distance learner as well, I didn't have the set time where I had lectures. So there was time where I was taking part in online tutorials, sat in a leisure centre car park while my kids were doing swimming lessons, for example. So having that flexibility at higher education compared to what was available when I was doing GCSEs was both a shock, but a welcome shock.
We've all sort of mentioned it. I wanted to ask about not just the academic skills themselves, but balancing these new academic challenges with other commitments, because I think there's a bit of a misconception with university students that you only go to university and you go to your lectures and then you go home. But, some of us are juggling part-time jobs, we're juggling families, we're juggling potentially health issues, disabilities. So I just wanted to ask, how have we found the academic skills when we have to balance it in the mix of, our daily lives? Ashley, how did you balance that?
I wouldn't really say I balanced it. Like, I'm very all or nothing. I really wanted this degree. Like, I've been really ill for a lot of it. I love that academic work is portable. I just carry around my laptop and study wherever I was. There's been times where I was in hospital with a serious infection and I was laying on the floor for like 12 hours in A&E, and I was like, sod it, I guess I'll just get my laptop out. And I worked on this assignment and I got a distinction for that one. I definitely made studying like my life while I'm here, but it is very hard to manage all my like health appointments and application forms for funding and stuff is quite difficult. But I wanted this degree so much, and I'm really glad that I've done it.
I really relate to you on the pushing yourself note, because I was always the person that people were like, you don't have to do this much work. But for me, it was just like, I'm only going to be here once. And, you're on my cohort, politics in Cardiff Uni is a huge cohort. We started off with something like, 200 in our cohort. So there is like maybe a slight competitiveness, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's unhealthy.
Definitely.
But just everyone really wants to do well, and everyone hears about getting a first class degree. So I think in terms of balancing, I just ran around like a headless chicken for 3 years, but really enjoyed it.
Yeah, same.
And Ewan, how do you feel about this? Do you agree, or?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, the sort of, with the structure I had, I think having 1 or 2 days in uni kind of suited, because I quite quickly got involved with our local theatres where I am. They did a volunteer scheme, and me being me, I just happened to be the first one to sign up. And very quickly that landed me a part-time job being a front of house assistant. Well, most of that would be evening work, like 6 till 10 in the evening. On the days off, well, study time then, maybe not days off, but on on the study days I had, I could do sort of revision exam, assignment writing, whatever academic stuff in the day, and then do my theatre work in the evening.
So working those sort of late hours, those sort of unsocial hours, you don't feel like it affected your degree?
Me being me, I was one of those people that I would not stop working on certain assignment or revising. I would usually just get lost of time. I could be working from some silly hour in the afternoon until quite late in the evening without stopping, and I would never realise it. So I think sort of having that job, it actually got me away from the laptop for 2, 3, 4 hours, however long I was in for.
Yeah, no, I can also relate to that. I worked with kids throughout uni, and honestly, going from a lecture where your brain is just fried to then like play with Lego is sometimes it actually really does help. But yeah, Gareth, you had other commitments.
Well, when I started uni, my daughter would have been 6 and my son would have been 4. So Lego definitely played a big part in my spare time around then. But I actually found the balance to be quite motivating as well. So in my first year at uni, I didn't have that many commitments, especially during the day when the children were at school and myself at home. And there was always more time in the day. So I would be up doing nothing throughout the day when I'm probably my freshest at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then would find myself studying at 9 o'clock in the evening because I'd put it off all day. As I took on then some other commitments, particularly volunteering commitments as I went into year 2, there was then that, well, I need to get it done now because I've got this else to do, that to do. I'd like to spend some time with my wife, some time with the children. So it's now or never, really. So having that motivating and that time pressure really actually helped me focus a lot more. And I mentioned obviously studying at late in the evening, well into the early hours of the morning sometimes. And I was never effective studying at that time. I'd always have to go over stuff because I was tired or repeat it. Whereas when I was then more focused studying in the morning, it was, I'm fresh, I'm taking everything in, and I was a lot more efficient in it. So I found actually having outside commitments and responsibilities to be better for me than actually having too much free time on my hands.
Lewis, are you a late night studier?
Yeah, I think I am actually. I really do enjoy, again, as I said, sit in the library and just like everyone's there and you can sort of bring loads of snacks and just sit in a room and just study then. But when it comes to you're in the library at 11 o'clock and you've still got a good like 400, 500 words to write for one of your essays, that's when it can become a bit stressful because either you've left it till the end to do it, which I've done. I put my hand up, I've done that quite a few times. But I've always got it in, and it's always, having everybody else there who have either got the same essay they're writing or they're doing other things at the time also motivates you to get it done.
Yeah, so Lewis, you thrive off that sort of, it is game time, I need to get this done. Ashley, what about you?
It varies for me. I'm generally like a get things in early if I can kind of person. And I find like I'm more of a morning person. So I would try and get things done, like Gareth, get it done in the day and then switch off at a certain time and get a good night's sleep, then be fresh for the next morning, unless I'm ill or I'm not sleeping well. Because then if I don't seem to have a sense of day or night because I'm ill or just not, I can't sleep, then I know that I'm going to be too tired to do well tomorrow with the work. So I might as well get some done at 1, 2 in the morning if I'm just laying there unable to sleep. But generally, I try and get it done in the day. I think something that can help with like balancing life and uni work is having a finance plan. Because say, for example, like my student finance work was like $9,000 or something maintenance, and it worked out to like, I budgeted, so it was $750 a month for the whole year to live off. And so after my rent and bills, that was like $350 left to live off. So I needed to cough up an extra $200 a month roughly to be comfortable, or 50 quid a week. That's literally that's one work day a week if I budgeted nicely. So that took a bit of pressure off, and I was able to think, okay, well, I just need to do like one more day's work this month and then I'm sorted. That really helped sort of be able to balance my time a bit better, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ashley, you sound like you're relatively disciplined
I don't know if I call it discipline because I feel like discipline is where you do something whether or not you feel like doing it. I think as well, just finding study skills that work for you and knowing your strengths and your weaknesses with your academic stuff. Like for me, I just try to really think a lot about myself, like what works for me, what doesn't work for me, and just know your temptations, know, what might slip up with. My boyfriend, he was at this uni as well, and he loves to do something fun first, like game or go out with his mates and then do the work after. But I can't. I would be so stressed about the work. I'm more of a do the work now and then go and relax after.
In terms of actually writing your assessments, your coursework, your projects, whatever that might be, how did you find that process? Is it something you're getting more comfortable with over time? Is it becoming easier? Did you really struggle with coursework at the beginning and now not so much? Lewis?
So yeah, at the start of the university, it's always like, oh, I've never wrote a essay before, I've never done a report before, or oh, I've got a viva, I'm not sure what a viva is, sort of things. But the university will give you help, not even if it's just from your lecturers, if it's from, say, an advice zone in university, they will help you to understand the structure of, say, an essay. Or because I've learned from essays and reports, do the introduction last and the conclusion last, because then you know what your introduction and conclusion is going to be about, because you've already done the main body. And with a viva, where sort of like you speak to someone like we are now, having certain notes jot down if it's online or something can really help, just even if it's just one word. So again, it just triggers you to speak about something.
Ashley, in terms of producing your coursework or your essays or your dissertations, how do you find that process in itself?
So I found like the most helpful thing with this process was something that I originally actually did for diets, but I switched to doing it for academic work, is keeping a diary of what you have done rather than a plan, well, as well as a plan of what you're going to do. Because I found that if I did sort of plan, oh, I'm going to do this and this week, sort of like just I'd put too much on there and like half of it wouldn't get done. But if I actually keep a study diary, so like say Monday, did 30 minutes on that essay, an hour and a half research, I would actually then I was able to track trends. So I was able to see that if I study 15 to 20 hours, that's sort of when the max I can do outside of lesson time. And from doing that, I actually figured out that it takes me around 20 hours to do most assignments. So then because of that, I was then able to pencil in when's the due date, how much time do I need to put into this? And that really helped me sort of structure it and get everything done on time.
Ashley, I feel like we should have spoken 4 years ago, because if I'd known this 4 years ago, I would have probably given it a go myself, because you are right. Everyone writes those super long to-do lists. I need to read 7 articles. I need to write 7 million essays.
It's not going to get done.
Yeah, no, totally. Ewan, what about you in terms of the process of creating your coursework or your projects, reports? How did you find that?
With me, I would usually make things 10 times difficult for myself. So like an example would be like doing a table of content. I would physically be writing in all the numbers, all the headings, whatever. It wasn't until I really started having support, I was like, they were saying, you do know that there's a much easier process to do certain things. And I'm like, nope, not at all. So it wasn't until like those things were explained of like automatic table of contents, references list. And I'm like, it was saving me so much time where I could just focus on actually doing the research. So like now being able to give back, what the university has given me for 4 years. And actually, I will be pinching the idea of using a study diary for all of my students.
Oh, brilliant. I think it's really helpful as well. It helps me push myself, because I'm like, oh, if I do 10 more minutes and I've done 2 hours rather than an hour and 50. So yeah, definitely helpful. I hope it's helpful.
I will 100% be pinching the idea. So thank you very much for that.
Gareth, I wanted to ask you, because obviously you're with the Open Uni. So you have that extra element of you're not on a campus, being able to pop in to lecturers' offices to ask for help. So in terms of, producing coursework and producing your projects and things and your essays, how was that additional element of the distant learning?
It's definitely different, I think, than what you would experience on the campus space. But I think the way the world is at the moment, the technology and so on, we still had a lot of interaction. They would always, at the end of a phone call, email, Teams meeting. There was always tutorials set ahead of assignments as well. So there'd be particular ones to cover the assignment topic. So that was always really useful to attend. And like everyone else has said, being able to interact with your tutor and ask the question was really an important and fundamental part of actually succeeding with the assignments. Still didn't make it any less challenging. I mentioned earlier on the blank page fear that I used to get from starting it. But again, I learned different techniques to help me overcome that. So even simple things like putting down the heading of the essay on the paper, just so there was something on there, or just said word count maximum 3,000, just so there was something there and I wasn't saying a blank page, helped. Something I wish I learned earlier on in my studies was to actually be ready to take notes at any particular point. So I'd often, especially coming up to assignments, have little sources of inspiration, like, oh, I need to remember this for my assignment. And I'd wake up the next day and think, oh, I've completely forgotten what it was. So the notes app on my phone became my best friend, really. It was like 10:30 at night, laying in bed, just there, like, do this tomorrow type of thing, and then just remembering to include stuff as well. So you do develop different ways to cope and overcome it.
The next theme is exams, because I didn't really have to do any exams because of the pandemic. And I was going to ask, actually, did anyone else here have to do sort of traditional type of exams? Lewis and Gareth already shook their heads.
I've done a few in-class tests, but I hadn't had any exams yet. So out my whole course so far, I only have one exam in last year, which for me, it's a bit of a blessing because I am rubbish at exams. Like, knowing you have to, like, you know, your night before, you're sitting there trying to cram as much information in as possible. And tomorrow you could go in there knowing everything. You can get, you know, above 70%, or you can go in there and all the questions are nothing, you know, and you don't get a single question right. So I feel like by the universities putting in, like, say, as I said, essays or reports, or sometimes I've had practical assessments, which I've done, like, you know, had upwards of 90% on. Some of the things that are like that, which, you know, break up the learning types that you do have as well. Like, it just depends on what kind of learner you are.
Ashley, do you have any exams on your degree, or?
Not on this degree, but on the previous degree I did, in that I just did 1 year on the adult nursing degree, and we had exams for that. I don't like exams, they're horrible. I'm actually quite good at exams, but I don't remember anything. After a couple months, it's gone. But yeah, I was just very good at cramming for exams. One thing I found helpful for cramming was to try and go over the content in different ways. So I'd read it, write it, listen to it. So I'd just, you know, put on a Word document and speech and listen to it, and also say it out loud. And I found doing that really, really helped it stick. And then just cramming as much as you can the weeks before the exam. And then I would wake up at, like, really early the morning before the exam, just cram a lot of it in again, just read over it. And that would make me score quite well.
In the School of Politics in Cardiff, they've basically done a 180 on exams, and we now basically don't have exams. I'm not sure if they're going to bring it back in, but now we're just basically coursework, long essays. And I think it's so much better because for a degree like politics, instead of cramming everything the night before, just trying to remember as much as you can, you're spending days, weeks building an argument and developing points. And I feel like that's what my degree, that's what it was all about.
I think another funny trick I did for exams was I really struggled with it. It was like the first year, like anatomy and physiology, like basically it's like a really hard biology exam. It's meant to be like an introduction, but I found it really hard. It was for like nursing, paramedic science and medical students. And I knew that I didn't have like the time to revise for all of the different areas of the body. So I decided to just focus on, like, say 8 out of 11 things that we were meant to learn, hoping that that would give me enough marks then if I knew those things in detail. And I actually managed to pass doing that. It's probably not the best thing to do for learning, but I think, yeah, it definitely helped.
Gareth, you shook your head when I asked if you had any exams.
I shook my head and then remembered, yes, I did, because it seems like so long ago that I did one. So this was back in my first year, so 2018. So it feels like a lifetime ago. And this was in an example, 3 hours, closed book exam. And I've probably buried it somewhere in my subconscious because it was just one of them experiences I don't want to do again. You've mentioned it yourself, Emily, about how the topic you study in is built up over time. You build the arguments. And I was doing law as well, where this isn't something that you necessarily need to know every nitty-gritty of the law and recall it from memory. In reality, you've got access to supporting documents, legislation, cases that you would refer to in life. So I didn't see the benefit of a memory recall exam under that sort of pressure to the actual degrees.
So sometimes university can be really, really overwhelming. Sometimes there's just one part of the course that's a problem. Sometimes you're struggling with everything on a more general level. I just wanted to ask if any of you had any of those struggles. Did you ask for support? Did you find it easy to ask for support? And where did you turn to? So Lewis, if I could come to you first.
So this is going to sound maybe a bit cocky, but I didn't really struggle that much with my course. You could sort of see how people could struggle when they've got a lot of workloads. So I have two of my mates and they're both studying aeronautical engineering. And they had, between the space of January and Easter, so that second term, they had 9 assessments for like 3 weeks. So like they were like big 2,000, 3,000 word essays. So, seeing them come out of their room at say 2:00 in the afternoon, they've just woken up from the sleep because they've just done so much work the night before for them to go, right, I'm off to the library now, to sit in the library for another 3 days to do another assessment. You can see how some people the weight of everything will bring you down to the floor. But doing things like, because I lived in a house with these people, doing things like when I finished my things, I would make sure the kitchen was tidy or clean stuff, or even just like cook them some food or something, because that just takes the weight off their shoulders, because they're not thinking, oh, I've got to clean up my dishes, I've got to do these, I've got to do certain things. So I feel like helping people in that sort of situation where they've got lots of stuff going on, I feel like everybody here would love a bit of weight off their shoulders when they've got, say, a 4,000 word essay due in for the next day and they've done, half of it, something like that.
Lewis, do you want to come and live with me again? I feel like I should introduce you to my housemates or something, because I would love nothing more than to finish an essay and not walk downstairs and have like a pile of dishes in the sink. But
I never said I was good at cleaning, but I tries.
Ashley, how about you in terms of that, accessing support, and even maybe just how important you think it is as well?
I mean, I struggled a lot. I've had a lot of like mini breakdowns throughout my degree. I can't even like remember how many it's been that many. I think it's just really important to reach out for support, and self-care is important and necessary for a lot of people. I think like I really struggled with my mental health I just got burnt out a lot. I think I was trying so hard, I was working so hard. I was so ill and I was stressing about things. I was feeling overwhelmed. In terms of being overwhelmed with the academic side, like my tutors were really helpful. Something that one of them said that sort of stuck with me is, if you don't feel like studying, start with what you enjoy. So it's like, just start with I would read something around the subject, maybe not specifically to do with the assignment, but just that I found interesting. And then that would sort of help me ease back into like studying if I had been procrastinating for a while out of stress. I think as well, trying not to make it perfect. That is often why I'm procrastinating, is actually because I'm worried that it's not going to be good enough. So if I just sort of try and do a bit and just don't worry about the outcome, just start it, that can really help. But I think in terms of being overwhelmed with other things going on outside uni, because I did get overwhelmed with just things that are going on in my personal life, I think just, again, reaching out and enhancing your self-care, having a self-care plan, like strategy, just stuff that calms you down. Like, you can even do stuff like while you're studying and can multitask with it. Like, I sometimes have like candles or relaxing music or upbeat music, whatever I need to make that study process easier.
Gareth, is it even more important to ask for support when you're not physically on the campus all the time?
I think absolutely. There's definitely the times that you need to reach out. I think you're probably reaching out to slightly different people on a personal level, where Lewis mentioned just now how he would help his friends out by doing some of the house stuff. My wife would be great on the other side of that. So I can see the other side of what Lewis said, in that my wife would take responsibility for everything, from feeding the children to keeping the house tidy to making sure washing was done. And having that, from my perspective, was a massive weight off the shoulders. Even from an open university perspective, where everyone knows it as a distance learning, you still get quite a lot of interaction with your peers, but just in a different way as well. And I think that was massively important for me. Knowing that there were people in the same boat as myself, going through the same struggles, and being able to just talk about anything, really. It didn't have to be a subject, but you could end up on the most random topic, But knowing that they were in the same situation yourself was really encouraging and supporting. And then finally, I think just support what Ashley said. You really do need to look after yourself as well. And it was something that I got more accustomed to as time went on. And I was making sure that I took the time to actually step away from the uni work, particularly around assignment time. I used to go swimming when I was doing assignment, and it was just that hour away where I could clear my mind and completely know that I'm in a swimming pool, no access to a laptop, no access to a book. Let me just enjoy it, that type of thing. So it was that clean break for me. And then you go back to it with that open mind and that fresh pair of eyes almost.
I just wanted to go around and ask everyone to literally just give one final tip, like one sentence to students that are maybe not sure or are on the fence. What one tip or word of advice in a very brief form would you give to them?
I think it's got to be keep a study diary. Just record what you're doing, then you can do something with it.
Just ask for help. There's people there who will give you help, so just ask for it.
Make the most of every minute you get involved, and don't be afraid to ask for support from anyone.
I'd say make it your own journey. Everyone's university experience is different. Don't worry about comparing yourself to others, just enjoy it.
Thank you for listening to this episode on the ins and outs of studying at university. We hope you've enjoyed listening to our experiences here and across the series. Maybe they've inspired you, giving you some ideas and things to consider, and hopefully set you up to be ready for taking on the brilliant challenge of university. This podcast is part of University Ready, a collection of free resources from universities in Wales designed to help you get started with higher education. Find out more at openlearn.com/university-ready. The link will be posted in the accompanying podcast notes. University Ready is a Bengo Media production for the Open University.
Let's Talk About Uni is a Bengo Media production for University Ready.